Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the RBI Grade B interview session and welcome to Crack Grade B. First of all, can someone tell me whether my voice is clear? And I hope the screen is also clearly visible. आवाज आ रही है सबको? Can anyone confirm whether my voice is clear? I hope the voice is clear, na? Let me check also. Chalo. So let's start our today's session, and in this session we'll be talking about different topics, not only the technical topics but also the profile based question that are usually being asked to the interview candidates, that you need to definitely prepare these things, especially if we talk about this year's RBI Grade B exam, interviews. जो इस साल RBI Grade B इंटरव्यू दे रहे हैं, आप ये सारे टॉपिक्स बिल्कुल छोड़ के ना जाए, because these are the most prominent topics that are right now in the news. All these are the legacy topics that RBI keeps on asking every year in interview across different spectrum of students. ठीक है, आप ये मान के चलिए, there will be two aspects within your interview. One is your profile based and another will be your technical interview, in which they'll not only ask you about RBI Grade B or RBI as a whole institution, they'll also be asking you about Indian economy or any other international issues that are prevailing as of now. So those three different set of criterias you need to prepare in technical. Apart from that, you also need to prepare thoroughly with respect to your profile and what are you going to answer such kind of questions which are very basic, which you might feel very basic, but you need to justify those things, especially in front of the board when they will be grilling you. ठीक है, आपको जो बेसिकली जैसे कोई डोमिनेट होकर आपसे बात कर रहा है या फिर ग्रिल कर रहा है आपको, सो यू डू नॉट नीड टू पैनिक एट दैट पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम. यू हैव टू बी कॉन्फिडेंट एट दैट स्टेज, जिससे कोई भी आपको दबा ना सके. इस तरीके से आप करके चलिए, अपने कॉन्फिडेंट रह के आप आंसर करिए. दैट इज द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इन एनी इंटरव्यू, बीट आरबीआई, बीट सेबी और बीट एनी अदर इंटरव्यू. So this thing you need to keep in mind. Otherwise, first of all, we'll be talking about, I'll be talking about the technical aspect first, in which we'll discuss about RBI related things, and then we'll shift towards international economic issues as well as domestic economic issues that every year these people ask. ठीक है? चलो. Let's start with the session. So this is the first thing. So first of all, I've written RBI website over here because any topic that I've mentioned over here, everything you can get from RBI's website. तो सबसे पहले मैंने आपको सोर्स ही बता दिया कि आपको कोई भी चीज कहाँ चाहिए. ठीक है, कोई वो करने की जरूरत नहीं है. इफ यू आर सब्सक्राइबर ऑफ द कोर्स, you already have these things. But even if you are not subscriber of the course, you can go to RBI website. You can get each and everything that is mentioned within over here. Is this clear? So first thing, you thoroughly need to focus on RBI history and functions. मतलब आपका इंटरव्यू शुरू होगा तो सबसे पहली चीज यूजुअली दे आस्क यू जस्ट टेल मी अबाउट द फंक्शंस ऑफ आरबीआई. बेसिक थिंग. तो ये बेसिक चीज यू नीड टू बी वेरी मच क्लियर अबाउट. ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल स्ट्रक्चर in terms of governors, deputy governors, and then what is the organizational structure, especially in the organization that you're going to go over there. So these things you need to be very clear about. Another most important thing is RBI speeches. RBI speeches are not only important in context of, obviously, what are the deputy governors as well as governors talking about, but also these speeches tells us about what are the most important pertaining issues that is currently going on in the Indian economy, or let's say in overall global economy. तो उस सेंस में RBI speeches become much more important. You get to understand RBI's psyche with respect to its working. Then another thing you need to be very clear about, or at least be aware about, is RBI notification, press release as well as circulars. ठीक है, RBI circular अगर आपने latest month के किए, obviously all those circulars will definitely help you answer any question, because those things are anyways related to RBI functions only. So RBI within its regulatory aspect is giving you circulars with respect to different aspects of banking, whether it's related to payment settlement or any other thing. So all these circulars will definitely help you. So try to at least be very clear about 2 to 3 months circulars. Another very big thing is your RBI annual report. RBI annual report is very much critical, because the first thing that they ask you, related to RBI annual report, just a random question that they can ask you, well, have you read annual report? So if you say yes, then they can definitely ask you question on that. और जब आपसे annual report के question पूछ सकते हैं, तो mostly they'll be focusing on RBI's balance sheet. And balance sheet is not only about कि कितने assets, कितने liabilities हैं. Each and every component of those assets and liabilities you need to be very clear about. For instance, there is also a term called agency charges. तो आपको ये सारे terms clearly पता होने चाहिए related to RBI's balance sheet as well as RBI annual report में. Then another favorite thing of RBI interviewers are SWOT analysis, whether we are talking about RBI's SWOT analysis or even Indian economy's SWOT analysis. Strength, weakness, opportunities and threats related to any organization. So SWOT analysis of Reserve Bank of India as an organization, you need to be very much prepare as your own. Okay? So they can ask you just do, they can just ask you just do SWOT analysis of Reserve Bank of India. तो आपको on point think आप कर सकते हो, तो that's fine. But if you prepare some pointers in your mind that what is the strength of RBI, what are the opportunities for RBI, what are the threats that RBI may face, and what are the weaknesses of RBI. So if you can do those things, then it is much better. Then initiatives or even indices which RBI releases, they most probably ask. Okay? For example, they asked me during my interview time that, just have you heard about financial inclusion index? What are the various components of financial inclusion index? And they also ask you what component is the most prominent in terms of weightage and all those things. So such kind of things they do ask. So do prepare indices released by Reserve Bank of India, not only the famous indices, but also the quarterly surveys as well as, all those type of small surveys. स्मॉल सर्वेज भी ऐसा है कि आपको ऑब्वियसली पीछे वाले नहीं, जो लेटेस्ट सर्वे आपके क्वार्टरली वाले होंगे उनको एटलीस्ट एक बार देख के चले जाओ. फॉर इंस्टेंस कंज्यूमर कॉन्फिडेंस सर्वे, इन्फ्लेशन एक्सपेक्टेशन सर्वे, हाउस होल्ड इन्फ्लेशन एक्सपेक्टेशन सर्वे, ऑल दोस टाइप ऑफ सर्वेज एज वेल एज इंडिसेस यू नीड टू प्रिपेयर. डू रीड अबाउट RBI Grade B, RBI Subsidiaries. RBI की सब्सिडरी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, उन सब के बारे में आप पढ़ के चलो. लेकिन प्राइमरी क्वेश्चन केवल इतना हो सकता है कि RBI की कितनी सब्सिडरीज है. Then they can go further downwards and they can ask you this subsidiary does what. So learn about how many numbers are there, learn about what are the primary function of those subsidiaries, and also you can talk about RBI, shareholding in such kind of subsidiaries as well. Next, these are also the key things that you need to prepare. For instance, priority sector lending, Kisan credit card, integrated ombudsman scheme, DICGC, as well as financial inclusion. These are also core topics that always gets asked to various people in RBI Grade B interview. Okay? So please take a note of these topics. It is very much important that you prepare RBI thoroughly in order to be strong as well as confident in front of the interviewers with respect to RBI, especially the organization that you're gonna join over there. Any confusion till now to anyone in this context? Nothing? Chalo. Let's move on to the next aspect, which is also very much critical, which is domestic as well as international economics. Okay, so domestic and international economics mein what all things that you need to take into consideration is, we are providing you few topics that you can prepare which are right now very much in news. First of all is geoeconomic fragmentation. This key term is not only been in news but also been in the economic survey, also been in, you know, in speeches of various governors as well as deputy governors. So do prepare about this, which is also related to protectionism, where each and every country is forming groups as a whole. You know, SCO and BRICS are making separate groups, then Western countries are making their separate groups. So world is getting fragmented in terms of geoeconomics. Then another very most prominent theme is Trump presidency and what will its most probable impact on Indian economy. That also you need to prepare, because very hot news. They can ask you कि Trump presidency को आप किस तरीके से देखते हैं? What do you think Trump presidency will be helpful for Indian economic or India or USA relations, or Indian economy as well as US economy? Then another most important trend that we are also witnessing is different central banks are buying gold immensely, even India's central bank also. So what are the reasons behind it? Why these central banks are doing this? And what do you think for what future contingencies they are preparing themselves? So these international topics, all of you need to prepare. Another technical aspect that you should focus upon is start from the very basic things, which is what is a bank? Especially for those who are, you know, who does not have banking background, तो वो सबसे पहले आपसे यही पूछते हैं कि what is a bank? और फिर बैंक को आपको प्रॉपरली डिफाइन करना पड़ेगा एज पर बैंकिंग रेगुलेशन एक्ट. दिस इज द की थिंग यू शुड कीप इन माइंड. आप जाके इस तरीके से नहीं बोल सकते कि बैंक इज अ इंस्टीट्यूशन व्हिच अलाउज यू पेमेंट. मतलब कोई एक फंक्शन नहीं बताना, आपको बैंक की प्रॉपर डेफिनेशन फ्रॉम बैंकिंग रेगुलेशन एक्ट बतानी पड़ेगी. अदरवाइज दे विल आस्क यू, अच्छा फिर ये इंस्टीट्यूशन ये करता है, वो ये करता है, तो तुमको बैंक का डिफरेंस ही नहीं पता. तो सच काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स दे कैन डू काउंटर ओवर यू. ठीक है, सो बी वेरी क्लियर विद रिस्पेक्ट टू व्हाट इज अ बैंक फ्रॉम दैट एक्ट स्पेसिफिकली. Then you can also prepare topics, you know, static topics like basic topics like GNPA, NNPA, SLR, CRR, repo, reverse repo. मैं आपको केवल इसलिए बता रहा हूँ, all of you can easily or at least you can say कि ठीक है ये क्यों बता रहे हैं. इन टॉपिक्स की डेफिनेशन एग्जैक्ट आपको आनी चाहिए. वहां पर यू डू नॉट, यू नो, stop or do not hesitate while telling about these definitions. Be very confident with respect to what exactly these small basic terms are. Then with respect to banks, they usually ask, you know, what do you see, or what are the key parameters as a central bank or a central bank employee whenever you have to regulate a particular bank? What are the key parameters within a bank that you see, or what are the key parameters within a bank's balance sheet that you see in order to properly assess a particular bank? So all those key ratios, for instance, you know, deposit ratio, reserve deposit ratio. Then you also talk about, you know, net interest income, all such kind of key things you need to prepare in this. Then another basic aspects that you get asked is, what is the difference between NBFCs as well as banks? What is the difference between payment bank as well as small finance bank? So these things you need to comprehensively prepare. Another aspect, especially in the domestic economy, is the problem of inflation that is currently going on. So sticky inflation as well as the food inflation, which is very much prominent in the country, they can also ask you questions on that. Why do you think inflation is very sticky in the country? Why do you think RBI as well as central government is not able to contain the inflation? So all those things you need to prepare comprehensively. ये देखो, आपको इकोनॉमी पता है, I understand. You also have given phase 2, so you have immense knowledge. But main thing is, वो कुछ prominent topics हैं जो न्यूज़ में बहुत चल रहे हैं, तो उसको आप in depth कवर करके चलो. You should have some opinion. You should have some, you know, position on it, and you should back your position with some facts as well as substantiated information. So that's why we are giving you these topics. And this thing I've already told you, Indian economy SWOT analysis. They can just ask you, do SWOT analysis of Indian economy, strength, weakness, opportunities and threats that Indian economy faces from different areas. So do prepare these topics comprehensively in order to strengthen your interview preparation. Lastly, we'll be talking about profile based questions that usually gets asked in the examination or in the interview. So what is the first thing that they ask you, especially whenever they will be focusing on HR based questions? So thus, this is the most primary question. They do not usually ask, why do you want to join RBI? They ask, why should RBI take you? और इसको थोड़ा और simplified version में अगर आप कर दो, तो they ask you, what have you done till now that makes you suitable for this position? Or what experience do you have that makes you suitable for this position? So you have to justify whatever you have done till now. You have to justify it on the basis of how that whatever you have done aligns with the roles and responsibilities of RBI Grade B manager. तो आप उससे align कर दो, तो that is your answer. Next is, what is your role in your current organization and how will it help in your role as RBI Grade B manager? Basically, whatever your experience is, आपके experience कैसे contribute करेगा? For example, if you're in banking sector, then that's fine. But agar banking, non-banking sector, so then they normally ask you such question. What department do you want to join and why? This is another question that they ask you. A lot of students gets asked this question and sometimes they tell कि monetary policy department. अगर आपका economics background नहीं है and still you're saying monetary policy department, then they sometimes snap at you. To accept those technical departments, you can say some other departments and then you do also have to give reasoning कि आप क्यों join करना चाहते हो. ऐसी random थोड़े बोलना है. उन्होंने पूछा, आपने बोल दिया डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ बैंकिंग रेगुलेशन, बस खत्म. बस. So they'll shift to another question. But if you give reasoning behind why do you want to join banking regulation, then they can ask you further question on that. Again, at every stage, you have the capability to maneuver or guide the interview. आप जो बोलोगे उसी बेसिस पे इंटरव्यू चलता जाएगा. So be very particular with respect to what are you going to say in front of interviewers. Okay, so these are the most important topics that you need to prepare, not only for this year and for the next year as well. ठीक है, next year issues ही तो change हो जाएंगे बस, but majoritarily, this RBI related thing will remain the same. Indian economy aspects will remain the same. Profile based question will remain the same. So do prepare these things and do at least take these things into consideration whenever you're preparing phase 1 and phase 2 also, because again these things will come to you later in interview also. Okay, so this is all for today from my side. If you have any question, feel free to ask. Otherwise, we'll wind up the session. Nothing? Chalo. Thank you guys for joining. We'll meet in the next session. Thank you.